Okay, now that we have contribution margin and our cost volume profit analysis organized, we're going to look at it just slightly differently, and we're going to use it as a ratio, and a ratio using sales as the denominator, and we're going to look at the different numbers against the total revenue or the total sales of the company. So let's look at this. We have contribution margin is calculated by dividing the total contribution margin by total sales. So in this case, we have contribution margin of $100,000, and it's divided by $250,000 in sales, or 40%. That means for a dollar increase in sales, we will increase net income, or excuse me, contribution margin by 40%. Or 40 cents of every dollar goes towards contribution margin. Now that's a very handy thing to have as a manager, because you can make decisions based on that very quickly without having to go through a whole spreadsheet and an income statement and so on. So let's look at a couple of other ways to look at it. The first one is contribution margin ratio does not necessarily have to be just in dollars. We could use it, or in overall sales. We could use it in contribution margin per unit. So as you see the slide here, it says contribution margin per unit divided by sales price per unit is $200. We know that's our contribution margin. Divided by the $500 sales price per unit is 40%. So we could either do it as totals, or we could do it by simply using the contribution margin per unit divided by the sales price per unit. In other words, 40 cents of every dollar of sales goes to contribution margin, and that doesn't matter if it's total sales or in each individual bike. So that's a very handy thing for a sales or a manager to have. So when we go past that, we start looking at things like contribution margin ratio, and what if rice bicycles, no, it's not rice bicycles. If racing bicycle increases sales from 400 to 500 bikes, that's $50,000 in sales, contribution margin will increase by $20,000. That's 20,000 is 50,000 times 40%. 50,000 as 40% is 20,000. You would not have needed all of the charts, all the work in the spreadsheet that's shown here on the chart, because you simply have said it's 40 cents in every dollar. If I increase sales by $50,000, 40 cents of it will go to contribution margin. So 40% of $50,000, of course, is $20,000. So you could have done that quickly and easily in your head. So you can see this is very helpful for a manager to have these numbers. If we go past that, we get into our Coffee Klatch espresso stand, and we have some questions here you should be able to answer pretty simply. The average selling price of a cup of coffee is $1.49. The variable expense of it is 36 cents, and the average fixed expense per month is $1,300. With an average of 2,100 cups of coffee sold each month, what is the contribution margin ratio for Coffee Klatch? So as we think about this, the contribution margin ratio, we would have to figure out the contribution margin by unit and then divide by the overall costs. So when we think of it, we end up with the contribution margin per unit is $1.49 minus 36 cents, and then we divide by this unit selling price, which is $1.49. So $1.13 divided by $1.49 is 0.758, or almost 3/4 of the price goes towards contribution margin. So that's fantastic. Obviously, there's a lot of margin in coffee, but 3/4, or 75% of the sales price goes towards fixed expenses in the coffee example. Now, if you are having trouble following all that, just change the numbers in your mind. The $1.49 minus 36 cents is the $200 contribution margin, and then the $1.49, of course, is the price of the bike. So that'd be 200 over 500. In this equation, in the coffee equation, it's $1.13 over $1.49. So you can see it's very similar to the problems we've been doing. We just switched it up from bicycles to coffee. If we go past that, we could do it in this other way, where if racing bicycle increased its sales volume to 500 bikes, what would the management expect its operating profit to be? Well, we could simply substitute in all the numbers in the equation. For example, profit equals 40%, that's the contribution margin ratio, times sales of $250,000 minus our fixed expenses of $80,000. You can see here that that would equal the same profit of $20,000. It's just shorter to say 40% of all sales dollars go to contribution margin, and then you could easily see if I increase sales by X number of amount, then it's 40 cents of each dollar would go towards contribution margin. So it allows you to make decisions as a manager a little bit quicker, and certainly something you want to look at. Now, you don't have to just look at it as one product. I mean, we've been talking about one product, bicycle or coffee, but imagine having lots of products. Imagine Amazon. The contribution margin of Amazon per product. Well, that's going to be a lot. So you would have multiple contribution margins, obviously lots and lots of contribution margins, and you could rank them and order them and figure out which products were giving you more contribution than others. You could do it in all kinds of other situations. You could even do it here at NTNU. Yes, you could rank our classes and see which ones were more full, which one had more contribution margin to the other ones. So you could use it in lots of different ways, contribution margin or contribution margin ratio, or even unit contribution margin, are very handy things for people to use. In fact, we're going to keep going with this in the next segment.